everybody, and welcome to another Interstellar Modeler. In this video what I'm going to do is have you follow along with me at creating my first set of decals. And what we're going to use as a sample model here is the Space 1999 Warhawk model that I've been working on. And if you hadn't seen any of the previous videos, this again is a ship seen from Space 1999. This is a resin kit produced by Mitch Segravis, and it does not come with any decals whatsoever. Now, I've pulled these pictures off the internet, and this is from a website. If you're interested in, I'll put the address of the website here. And you can see, though, that this is a picture of the original studio model, and there are a number of different markings here along the underside of the hull. And certainly you can try to paint them, but I thought this would be a great time to see if I could just make decals for these. Since they are basically just rectangles and squares, I thought this might be a good opportunity to see what would happen if I try to create these on my own. And here's another picture of the bottom side of the ship here, as well as the top side here, and you can see again more examples of those markings. And on the top side as well, you can see a number of different ones here, including these orange stripes. And then of course there are these black squares here, which I could certainly paint, but again I think they'll come out looking a little sharper if we can create some decals to do that. And you can see there's some orange stripes here along these cages here and here. So as for the decal paper, I'm going to use Tester's decal paper here, and it comes with several sheets of these pieces that you can stick through an inkjet printer. And once they're printed, you're supposed to apply this bonder, and after that dries, you're supposed to be able to just stick them in water as you would any other decal, and they should work. So the first thing we need to do is to kind of get organized as to where the decals are going to go here, just kind of figure out a system anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the pictures in detail and start numbering the decals from, I'm going to go from top to bottom here on the underside, turn the ship over, and we'll number the areas on that side as well. And then what I plan to do to create the decals, or at least to configure them, is to measure out areas here and draw up some stuff on Photoshop and print a sample sheet, cut them out, and see if they'll fit. And of course, if they fit, we'll start transferring the figures over to a more permanent document that we'll use to print on the decal paper. Okay, so that is the process we're going to try to go through here, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here we are in front of my computer, and what I have pulled up here on Photoshop is a schematic that I found online. This was actually originally printed in a Starlog magazine of March 1980, and it essentially is a schematic of the Warhawk. So what I'm going to do is actually use this to help me organize my decals, because it'll be a nice guide to be able to kind of number and just essentially label where the decals are going to go. So what I'm going to do here, first of all, is I'm going to isolate the bottom section and then isolate the top section and make an upper and lower schematic. So let me do that real quick. And here we now have an upper and lower view of the ship. Now before I go on here, I wanted to just briefly mention that over the years I've learned how to use a program like Photoshop because I am an amateur photographer, and I've read a lot of books and I've taught myself how to do a number of different techniques with the program, so I know I can create these particular decals with this program. I'm not sure how other modelers have done it. I can only assume they've used either Photoshop or something like Illustrator to do so. The shapes we're going to be working with here are pretty basic. We're really dealing with just rectangles and squares and those types of things, so the techniques I need to use for this are going to be pretty simple. So my aim here is just to show you how I'm going to proceed with this, and then obviously once we're done with creating them here, we're going to move on, as I said, with printing them on the decal sheet. So let's go ahead and move forward. My first step will be to measure some of these things out so we can get some numbers to work with, and then I'll show you how I'm going to create some of these designs. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is create these rectangles here, and what I'm going to use now is a tool called the Marquee, and it's essentially a tool you can use to draw squares and circles for that matter. And you can put a fixed size here. So I measured a dimension of 7/16 by 5/16. We just need to turn those into decimals. Okay, so I've inputted the decimal equivalent of that, and you can see here that we take our cursor and it's now been assigned that dimension to draw out, and so really once you just place your cursor here, it will draw a selection when in those particular dimensions. So what we're going to do here is just fill that with black, and it's black here, and there we have our rectangle. Okay, so it's simple as that. And so essentially what I'm going to do is just follow this along, except I'm going to create other rectangles and fill them, say, with gray, and as well as some markings and other things there so that we can duplicate the panels that we're looking for. So I'll go ahead and proceed with that and show you my results here in a second. Okay, and here we now have more markings. I've again used that marquee tool to create some different patterns, and you can see I'm just kind of going along here filling it with different colors and making some of them striped, and some of them with these little squares and so forth. And what I'm trying to do is just duplicate the look that we see on the model. So again, referring to our picture here, you can see this is one marking here that has kind of an E shape to it. And then we have other ones that are just gray rectangles, and some look striped. And you can see again that's what I'm going for here. So these here are going to be for the upper hull. These here are going to be for some of the markings along the lower hull. So for example, there's one right there with those two little squares, and there's other squares and rectangles there as well. And again, what I've done was I went to the model, kind of measured the area, see what I thought would fit, and so then we're going to test it out. So what I plan to do next is to print this on a piece of paper, cut them out, and see how well they fit onto the model. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we come back out here to the workbench, and you can see the patterns that we've created here have been printed on this piece of paper here. So what I'm going to do now is cut some of these out, and let's just see how they fit onto the different sections of the model. Okay, so if we just start at this section right here, you can see there are two markings here. One's a gray rectangle, the other one's kind of an outline of a square with a couple of other markings here. Let's go over to the model. And these are the patterns that we've made so far, and we probably could make them just a little larger. We may not be able to make them match exactly what we see there, but you can see they don't look too bad as they are right now. If we go further down, we can see this middle section here has a marking here that's gray with these two little squares, and this is the one I've created here for that section. And then there are a number of other ones around here and along here, and you could probably paint these, as I mentioned in early in the video, but it's going to be a lot easier to be able to slide these decals underneath the tubing that we've created here versus trying to paint that on. And then we have this one here is kind of like a fat L shape, and I've created that one there. We probably can trim that a little bit, and you can see there's another one here. It's another square or rectangle with these 4 markings at the corner, and you can see that looks pretty good right there. So on the port side, you can see again there's this marking here with this E. Now I don't know what it says here, it's just too blurry to make it out, so maybe I'll just put some maybe tiny words there or something, but you can see there's that one. We also have a couple other markings down here, and these are the ones we've created so far. So there's the one with the E, and we've got a couple of these other panels. And then on the opposite side, we've got these markings here starting from forward to back, and you can see the ones that we've created look like this. And towards the rear is this section here that has 10 of these panels, and the rectangle that we've made here seems to fit fairly well. The challenge is going to be dealing with these here with the little indentation, so I'll have to work on that. But my goal here is to create a look that has really sharp lines, and I think I'll be able to achieve this better with these decals versus trying to paint them on. So far it's proceeding as planned. I'm going to go ahead and create the rest of the sheet. I'm not going to tape every single step along the way here, but I will certainly show you the completed sheet, and then we'll print that on a decal paper and we'll see how they go on. So I will have you catch up with me here in a second. Okay, and here we now have the completed sheet. I have 2 decal sheets now. This is decal sheet number 1, and I have them all organized now from the underside of the ship going from port to starboard, and we've got the center section. Also have now these dots that are going to be placed on the command module. I have these symbols here which will be placed on the wings. Those are the ones that hold the missile launchers. And of course we have the orange stripes. I decided just to create one long decal that we're going to trim as we go along here. And again, this was all created using that marquee tool. I just simply measured out the sizes that I wanted and used the cursor to create a selection there that was filled in with the appropriate colors. Now the colors aren't going to appear quite true on the video here because it's going to be somewhat altered by what we're getting off the screen here and the overhead lighting here, but I did modify some of the colors along the upper hull, those panels that go along there. I made some lighter and some darker. You can see I added some words with that panel there. It has that E symbol. And let me just show you decal sheet number 2. And what I decided to do was to create a bunch of extra decals here for that panel section that's towards the rear of the ship. And I just created a bunch of extra ones there, and I kind of through trial and error created the ones with the little indentations there. Just would kind of fiddle with it, print them out, see if they would fit, and I finally came up with these there. And then I am going to add a few extra gray squares here and here just to put a bit more squares so that just in case we goof up, we'll have some extra ones that we can utilize there. But oh, and before I print them out here, I wanted to mention one other thing. If you're wondering how long it took me to put all this together, you know, you probably could get this done in about a day or so. If you really kind of stuck to it and powered through, you probably could make all these decals in that short of a time. It took me a few days simply because I do this when I get home from work. Again, it's a matter of measuring things out, coming back, and through trial and error, just trying a few things here. It's something that can be a little tedious. On the other hand, this is a new experience for me, so I thought it was kind of fun to do it. Not sure I'll be doing this very often because most of the models I buy are not resin kits that don't come with decals, but it's just, again, something else that you can try, and so far it's been a good experience. So I guess I will determine if that's really a good experience if these work. So let's go ahead and print them out now, and let's give it a shot here. Okay, here we now have the printed decal sheets, and so what I did was printed them out, and I had to use the decal bonder, which is this here, which actually some tell me it's very similar to their clear coat spray, but either way we just use that. And at first I went by the directions and said you just put a light coat on there, you wait 2 hours, and you're able to use the decals. But when I used a test sheet, so I printed not only what you see here but also another sheet just to test a few things out with it. I put those decals in water, and guess what? All the stuff started to come off. So it wasn't both enough time, but also I think I didn't put enough of the decal bonder there either. So what I did was I went ahead and sprayed more decal bonder on that test sheet and then waited a day, and sure enough, when I put the decals in water, they came off properly. So wanted to show you now the decal sheet all completed, just like you saw on screen. These are the decals here, at least the first sheet here, which include of course the orange striping and all the decals that are going to go on the upper section of the hull, and then these are going to go on the lower section, and of course the black panels that I showed you there as well. Okay, so after having dipped it in water, you can see the decal slides off pretty well. Let's go ahead and put it on the model now and see how it looks. And you can see after laying it on the model, it looks pretty good here. So I think the decal sheet's going to work really well. Let me go ahead and proceed with the rest of them, and I'll show you my progress here in a second. Okay, and here's now a view of the completed bottom section, and I am very satisfied with the way all this is turning out here. Certainly you could have attempted, or one could have attempted to paint these sorts of panels, which certainly is not impossible, but again, when you're talking about panels here with this type of detailing, it'd be hard to duplicate that with a paint job. So very happy that have the opportunity to try this out here. I think overall it's working pretty well. Let me take a second to show you the top section of the model. Actually, let me just go ahead and show you the entire model. I think overall I'm pretty satisfied with the way things turned out. This, as I said, was my first attempt at trying to create a decal sheet, and this was a good opportunity because, you know, we had to create all these symbols here that we saw on the studio miniature, and it would be hard to hand paint all those in, particularly if you got symbols like this that you see on the wing. Also, what was helpful to have decals with are the stripes that you see along the spine here, especially the ones that are bordered with the black. You can see they were utilized here, and then these are just the plain orange stripes, and then there's more striping here. And then there's stripes along here as well. So it creates nice, fine, straight lines, much better than I could certainly do with a paintbrush myself. Now, the one thing that was a little bit odd with these decals is that when you do put them on, they started to look a little splotchy after a little while as they dried. I'm not quite exactly sure why that was the case. Once they were fully dried, they look okay, but there are a couple underneath on the bottom section that definitely did dry a little bit uneven, at least in terms of the color. Also, the other thing I would say is that the decals don't appear quite as vibrant as they did on the printed sheet. So no doubt it'll take just a little bit more practice to get the hang of it, but I think overall it was a pretty decent first attempt here with creating a decal sheet. So hopefully you learned something. I know I did. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at interstellarmodeler@gmail.com or leave a comment here on my YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.